Welcome to PBS 39's Scholastic Scrimmage. Scholastic Scrimmage is brought to you by the members of PBS 39 and by
Scholastic Scrimmage is sponsored by St. Luke's University Health Network, the region's leading provider of medical education. For more than 100 years, St. Luke's has been dedicated to educating physicians, nurses, and healthcare professionals. To learn more, call St. Luke's InfoLink, toll free at 866 St. Luke's, or visit sluhn.org.
Support for PBS 39's educational programming is provided by the Deluxe Corporation Foundation, proud to support quality programming on PBS 39.
scholarships provided by the Air Products Foundation. And now, here's your host, Joe Passetti.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Scholastic Scrimmage on PBS 39. I'm your host, Joe Passetti. In an interview with O Magazine, writer Junot Diaz discussed what makes a true writer. He states, "In my view, a writer is not a writer because she writes well and easily, because she has amazing talent, because everything she does is golden. In my view, a writer is a writer because even when there is no hope, even when nothing you do shows any signs of promise, you keep writing anyway." The takeaway is clear. Writing needs to happen despite your intentions for your final product, and we're always thinking about the perfect ending too often. Diaz's idea extends far beyond writing, too. Take, for example, how we set goals generally. We're so quick to throw away the errors, the mistakes, those little failures that build your final product. Furthermore, perfection is a worthy goal, but we should never assume it. Know that the road to success in writing, in math, in science, in quiz shows, in life, requires small, medium, and large failures. Work through them, use them, persist. Now, we have the opportunity to see two teams put in the work. Our contest today is between the Penn Argyl Green Knights and the Allentown Central Catholic Vikings. Let's meet the team, starting with Central Catholic.
Hi, I'm Colton Tretner, and I'm a senior.
I'm Ryan Chata, and I'm a junior.
I'm Andrew Buck, and I'm a senior.
I'm Alex Stroll, and I'm a junior.
Central Catholic's coaches are Gary Bushta and Edward Tabor. Now the team from Penn Argyl.
I'm Alexis Dolly, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Sam Duz, and I'm a junior.
I'm Jacqueline Curler, and I'm a junior.
I'm Maria Caesar, and I'm a senior.
Penn Argyl's coach is Jeffrey Myers. Our judges for today's contest are Sally Campbell, Gary DeLeo, and Kathleen Steele. To our audience, this contest requires rapid recall of facts and favors the resolute. Performances on this stage are not necessarily reflective of these students' academic experiences. At the end of the season, the two final teams will win scholarships for their schools from the Air Products Foundation. And remember, it's always easier to be an armchair quizmaster than a competitor in this arena. We understand the rules, so let's begin the contest with a toss-up. What man wrote that no refuge could save the hireling and slave in his poem Defense of Fort McHenry, which later became the Star-Spangled Banner? Penn Argyl.
Francis Scott Key.
That is correct, and your bonus. Robert McCullough purchased what 19th century London landmark once designed by John Rennie and Son and had it rebuilt at Lake Havasu City, Arizona? London Bridge. London Bridge is what we were looking for. Toss-up. What author wrote that April's gentle rains inspired the travels of pilgrims, such as The Wife of Bath and the prologue to his work? Penn Argyl.
Geoffrey Chaucer.
That is correct, and your bonus. The eldest son of a British monarch is known as the Prince of what region conquered in the 13th century by Edward I? Sam.
Wales.
Wales is correct. Toss-up. Michael Madigan, what state's House Speaker, criticized a credit downgrade by Moody's in June 2017 after an analysis of pension issues in Chicago? Central.
Illinois.
That is correct. Your next question for your bonus is a visual, so your attention to the monitor as I read. Pencil and paper ready. What quotient results when the quadratic polynomial x squared plus 9x plus 18 is divided by the quantity x plus 3? Andrew.
X plus 6.
That is correct. Toss-up. What psychologist who coined the term familiar stranger tested willingness to follow orders to apply electric shocks in his obedience experiment? Central.
Pavlov.
That is incorrect. Question goes over to Penn Argyl. Stanley Milgram is what we were looking for. Toss-up. What amendment, which was upheld by the Supreme Court in Lesser v. Garnett, was advocated by suffragists and gave women the right to vote? Central.
19th Amendment.
19th Amendment is correct, and your bonus. In May 2017, what Republican won a special election to represent Montana in the U.S. House despite body-slamming Guardian reporter Ben Jacobs?
Jones.
That is incorrect. It is the very aggressive Greg Gianforte. Gianforte. Toss-up. What city home to Renzo Piano's Pompidou Center is also home to a structure built to span the entrance of its 1889 World's Fair, the Eiffel Tower? Central.
Paris.
Paris is correct, and your bonus. What general process uses evaporation and condensation to separate mixtures with different boiling points? Andrew.
Distillation.
Distillation is correct. Toss-up. A porphyrin ring surrounds a magnesium ion in what pigment that is found in chloroplasts and is responsible for absorbing light? Central.
Chlorophyll.
Chlorophyll is correct. Your bonus. What citizen king of France ascended to the throne during the July Revolution? Andrew.
Robespierre.
That is incorrect. Louis Philippe. Louis Philippe. Toss-up. What man, who in 1927 won the Orteig Prize for piloting the Spirit of St. Louis on the first solo? Central.
Lindbergh.
Charles Lindbergh is correct, and your bonus. The tepid water of the canals is blamed for the spread of cholera in what 1912 novella by Thomas Mann? Andrew.
Fever of 1789.
Incorrect. Death in Venice. Death in Venice was the novel. Toss-up. What novel, whose title character murders artist Basil Hallward, was written by Oscar Wilde about a man who stays youthful while his portrait ages? Central.
Portrait of Dorian Gray.
Can you be more specific about that response, please? Or rephrase.
Portrait of a young Dorian Gray.
Incorrect. Question will go over to Penn Argel.
Picture of Dorian Gray.
The picture of Dorian Gray, not the portrait. And your bonus. Pencil and paper ready. What is the value of the Roman numeral M, D, C, L, X, V, I? $1,666 was the value. Toss-up. What property of a square matrix is zero if the matrix is singular or not invertible, and for 2x2 matrices is computed as AD minus BC? Central.
The determinant.
Determinant is correct, and your bonus. The sackbut is an early variety of what brass instrument played by Glenn Miller, which may use an F attachment to reduce the performer's movement? Andrew.
Trombone.
Trombone is correct. Toss-up. What city at the mouth of the Chao Phraya River contains the Wat Arun and the Wat Pho Buddhist temples and is the most populous city in Thailand? Central.
Bangkok.
Bangkok is correct. And your bonus. What Native American, who was killed by a man named Red Tomahawk in 1890, inspired Sioux warriors to victory at the Battle of Little Bighorn? Andrew.
Sitting Bull.
Sitting Bull is correct. Toss-up. What South American author depicted the Purifiers, a cult that destroys unworthy books from hexagonal rooms, in his story, The Library of Babel? Central.
Borges.
Borges is correct. And your bonus. Michael Hanchard sells his wife and daughter, then tries to conceal his actions after assuming the title office in what novel by Thomas Hardy? Andrew.
The President.
Incorrect. The Mayor of Casterbridge. Mayor of Casterbridge. Still a station, though, so that works.
Lightning round!
At the start of the contest, we had a coin toss to determine who would go first. And Argel, you won that coin toss, so you will have the first selection of categories. I'm going to read 2 categories to you. You select one. The one you don't select will go to Central on the volley. You have 1 minute to answer them, no conferring. You have September 11 or eyes.
Eyes.
Eyes. Very good. Okay. Give these words or phrases that contain the word E-Y-E. Grease worn by football players to reduce glare.
Ice screen.
Incorrect. Person with first-hand knowledge of a crime, often having seen it.
Eyewitness.
Correct. Giant Ferris wheel on the Thames.
London Eye.
Correct. Paratorbial hematoma, resulting from a fight.
Black Eye.
Black eye is correct. First book of the Wheel of Time series.
Pass.
Very late or very early flight.
Red Eye.
Correct. Period of calm in the midst of trouble.
Storm.
Correct. Martin Luther King said this concept left everyone blind.
An eye for an eye.
Correct. Beauty is relative because it is proverbially in this concept.
Eye of the beholder.
Correct. University of Iowa athletic teams.
Bullseye.
Incorrect. Hawkeyes was the last one that we were looking for there. Very well done, Penargel. Central. That leaves you with September 11. Okay, so again, anybody can ring in, no conferring. Answer the following about events that occurred on September 11 in the given years. 1297. William Wallace won a battle at this bridge.
Pass.
1714. This Catalonian city surrendered in the War of Spanish Succession.
Barcelona.
Correct. 1792. A large blue diamond, now known by this name, was stolen in France.
The Hope Diamond.
Correct. 1826. New Yorker William Morgan disappeared after criticizing members of this secret society.
The Freemasons.
Correct. 1919. U.S. troops were sent to protect interests in this country's banana industry.
Hawaii.
Incorrect. 1950. This president approved military action north of the 38th parallel in Korea.
McCarthy.
Incorrect. 1973. Salvador Allende was overthrown by this Chilean general.
Pinochet.
Correct. 1992. Hurricane Iniki devastated this state's island of Oahu.
Hawaii.
Correct. Okay. Those are all the questions there. Well done, Central. So after the first lightning round, that's going to bring us back to our toss-up questions. What physical constant equals Boltzmann's constant times Avogadro's constant and is the R in the equation pressure times volume equals Central?
Universal gas constant.
Correct. And your bonus, a description of a being than which no greater being can be conceived as a component of St. Anselm's ontological proof of what claim?
God.
Can you be a little bit more specific?
Existence of God.
Correct. Existence of God. Toss-up. What state where a boot-shaped monument to Benedict Arnold stands at Bemis Heights was the site of 2 1777 American victories at Saratoga? Penargel.
New York.
New York is correct. And your bonus. The albedo of a celestial body is the fraction of incident sunlight that undergoes what process at its surface? Sam?
Diffraction.
Reflection is what we're looking for there. That's going to bring us to the half. The score currently is Central Catholic 180, Penargel 115. Let's have a hand for both of our teams. At the break during each show, we like to take an opportunity to get to know more about our competitors. This week, we're going to find out what person, past or present, each of our contenders on stage would have dinner with and why. We'll start over here with Central Catholic.
I would have to say Enrico Fermi because I would like to know his opinion on the state of nuclear weapons in the current world.
I would choose Isaac Newton because he's just such an interesting and influential thinker.
I would say Andy Warhol, so I could discuss how he came up with many of his most popular works.
I'd say Milton Hershey. I just think having dinner with him would be really sweet.
I like that. That was very clever. Well done, guys. Penargel.
Probably say Bernadette Peters. I really love Broadway.
I would say Theodore Roosevelt, just to get to know more about him.
I would say Essie Hinton because she's just an incredible author.
I'd pick Harry Styles because he's my favorite musician.
Thank you, guys. Let's go right back into the toss-ups. What home country of Alan Kurdi, whose dead body was pictured on a beach in 2015, has faced a refugee crisis since its civil war started in 2011? Central.
Syria.
Syria is correct. And your bonus. What word for a durable Oxford shoe with sturdy leather perforated uppers can also refer to a strong Irish accent? Andrew.
A draw.
A draw is incorrect. A brogue.
Oh.
Irish don't draw, they brogue.
Yeah.
It was a brogue. Toss-up. One mountain range whose peaks include the Corno Grande and Gran Sasso contains the source of the Tiber River and extends down the Italian peninsula. Panargil.
The Alps.
That is incorrect. Question will go over to Central.
The Apennines.
The Apennine is correct. And your bonus. In what K.A. Applegate series, whose first entry is The Invasion, does an Andalite give teenagers the power to transform into various creatures? Andrew.
Animorphs.
Animorphs is correct. I think I only vividly remember seeing the covers of those books, and that's about it. I don't think I ever read them. Toss-up. What point, whose value for water is used to define the Kelvin, occurs when three phases of a substance coexist in thermodynamic equilibrium? Central.
The tri-point.
I'm sorry, that's incorrect. The question will go over to Panargil. Central, you missed three letters. It's triple point. Has to be specifically triple point. Toss-up. What Florida-based fast food chain's menu has included the macaroni-stuffed mac and Cheetos, as well as offerings like chicken fries? Central.
Burger King.
That is vile, but correct. And your bonus. In languages derived from C, what word begins a loop that iterates for as long as a particular Boolean statement returns true? Andrew.
A closed loop.
Incorrect. While loop. While loop is what we're looking for. Toss-up. What man who was killed by a doctor named Carl Weiss advocated the Share Our Wealth program, governed Louisiana, and was nicknamed the Kingfish? Huey Long. Huey Long is what we were looking for. Another toss-up. What novel, which has a chapter consisting of the line, "My mother is a fish," depicts a journey to bury Addie Bundren and is by William Faulkner? Central.
Sound and the Fury.
Incorrect. Question will go over to Panargil. As I Lay Dying was the correct response. Much more tolerable than The Sound and the Fury. Toss-up. What TV series, which features two half-car spaces and a $1 million wedge that is added to a bonus round, is hosted by Pat Sajak and Vanna White? Panargil.
Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune is correct. And your bonus. Giant petrels and leopard seals are predators of what largest species of penguin that incubates its egg by balancing it on the male's feet? Sam.
The Emperor Penguin.
Emperor Penguin is correct. And your toss-up. What type of structure is exemplified by Portugal's colorful peña, ones named Hohenzollern and Neuschwanstein in Germany, as well as Spain's Alhambra? Central.
Castles.
Castles or palaces, we would have accepted either one. And your bonus. What song, whose chorus repeats, "I bless the rains down in," the title location, was a 1982 hit for the band Toto? Andrew.
Africa.
Africa. Team effort. Well played. Toss-up. Wagner is the servant of what character who seduces Gretchen in a Goethe play that depicts this man's unholy bargain?
Faust.
Panargil.
Faust.
Faust. Faust is correct. Heinrich Faust. And your bonus. What politician who served as governor of Maryland in the 1960s later resigned the vice presidency after being charged with having taken bribes? Spiro Agnew. Spiro Agnew, vice president under Nixon. Toss-up. The change in internal energy equals the work done by a system subtracted from what form of energy, which has zero transfer, an adiabatic process. Adiabatic process. Central.
Thermal energy?
Thermal energy is correct. Your bonus. What body of water, which formed in the first decade of the 20th century, is a shallow sea that is the largest lake in California? Andrew.
The Los Angeles Reservoir.
The Salton Sea. That's what we were looking for, the Salton Sea. Our next question is a video question. Your attention to the monitor, please.
Art Ditbar throws. Here's a swing and a high fly ball going deep.
What team won the 1960 World Series on a Bill Mazeroski home run, employed Roberto Clemente, and played at Three Rivers Stadium in Pennsylvania?
The Pirates.
Pirates is correct. Go Phillies. Bonus. The marriage of Dick and Nicole Diver is depicted in what novel by F. Scott Fitzgerald, which was based on his own marriage to Zelda Fitzgerald?
The Great Gatsby.
That is incorrect. Tender is the Night. Tender is the Night. Toss-up. Prussia gained Silesia after a war named for the succession of what empire that was ruled by Maria Theresa? Central.
The Austrian Empire?
Yes, that is correct. And your bonus. What constitutional amendment, which was ratified in 1971, gave 18-year-olds the right to vote? Andrew.
26th Amendment.
26th is correct. Toss-up. What composer of the Tragic Overture and a German Requiem wrote a symphony dubbed Beethoven's 10th and a cradle song known as his namesake, Lullaby? Central.
Mozart.
Incorrect. Question goes over to Pan Argel.
Chopin?
Is incorrect. Brahms is what we were looking for. Brahms Lullaby. Toss-up. What father of Hippolytus was temporarily stuck to a rock in Hades, killed the bandit Procrustes, and defeated the bull-headed Minotaur? Pan Argel.
Theseus?
Theseus is correct. And your bonus. The lowest population density of any nation in the world is in what Asian country, whose southern half is covered by the Gobi Desert?
Mongolia.
That's correct. Say Mongolia. Toss-up. What scientist who discovered optical isomers in tartaric acid gave his name to a process in which liquids like milk are heated to kill bacteria? Central.
Pasteur.
Pasteur is correct. And your bonus. Bakufu is the term for the tent governments run by what military rulers of Japan? Andrew.
Shoguns.
Shoguns is correct. Toss-up. What play, which is set in the Elysian Fields neighborhood of New Orleans, features Stanley Kowalski and Blanche Dubois? Pan Argel.
A Streetcar Named Desire.
Streetcar Named Desire is correct. And your bonus. Maurice tries to learn why Sarah left him in The End of the Affair, a novel by what author who depicted a fugitive priest in the power and the glory? Graham Greene was the correct response. Toss-up. What place, which was holding a Latin night in 2016 when it was targeted by Omar Mateen, was an Orlando nightclub? Central.
The Pulse nightclub.
Pulse nightclub is correct. And your bonus question. The Great Wave off Kanagawa is a woodblock print by what 19th century Japanese ukiyo-e artist who created 36 views of Mount Fuji? Andrew.
Nobunaga.
Incorrect. Hakusai. Hakusai. Toss-up. Members of the Essene sect are thought to have written what collection of ancient texts first unearthed? Central.
The Dead Sea Scrolls.
That is correct. And your bonus. Fermat's last theorem is called the Diophantine equation because its variables must all be in what set of numbers, generally denoted capital Z? Andrew.
Integers.
Integers is correct. Toss-up. What type of substances, of which there are protic and aprotic variants, include toluene and acetone and dissolve a solid in a solution? Central.
Alcohol.
That is incorrect. The question will go over to Pan Argel.
acids.
Could you repeat that?
Corrosive acids.
Incorrect. The solvent is what we were looking for. Solvent. Toss-up. What desert, which is home to the Badwater Basin and Edwards Air Force Base, has Joshua trees as a native plant and includes the city of Las Vegas? Central.
The Mojave.
The Mojave is correct. And your bonus, Hank Morgan saves himself from being executed by predicting an eclipse in what Mark Twain novel set in medieval England? Andrew.
Tom Sawyer.
Incorrect. A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court was the correct response. It's always that one. Always that one.
Lightning round!
Penn you had the selection first. That means Central, you will have the first selection, and the category you don't select goes to them. The two categories are colors and walls.
We'll go with colors.
Colors, feeling good about colors.
Yeah.
We'll go with colors. Okay. 1 minute, no conferring. Anybody can ring in. What color is referenced in the name of a Major League Baseball team in Canada?
Blue.
Correct. A sea that borders Bulgaria, Turkey, and Russia.
Black.
Correct. A nickname for Georgia Tech athletic teams.
Pass.
The least populous city that is home to an NFL team.
Green Bay.
Correct. A Call of Duty game involving ops.
Black Ops.
Yes. A type of rain in a Prince song.
Purple Rain.
Correct. A revolution that took place in Ukraine starting in 2004.
Orange Revolution.
Correct. A boy in a 1779 painting by Thomas Gainsborough.
Blue.
Correct. A mountain that was the site of a 1620 battle in the 30 Years' War.
White Mountain.
Correct. A line that separates areas of Greek and Turkish control in Cyprus.
Green Line.
Correct. Very well done, Central. Brings us to the end of the category for colors. Penn your category is walls. 1 minute, no conferring. Anyone can ring in. Answer the following about walls. War memorialized with a Washington, D.C. structure designed by Maya Lin and known as the Wall.
Vietnam War Memorial.
Correct. Roman emperor who built a wall around AD 122 near the English-Scottish border.
Hadrian's Wall.
Correct. President who demanded Mr. Gorbachev tear down this wall.
Reagan.
Correct. The Town Beyond the Wall is a novel by this Jewish author of Night.
Pass.
U.S. state whose town of Wall is near Badlands National Park.
Wyoming.
Incorrect. Holy site in Jerusalem that is a remnant of the Second Temple.
West Wall.
Correct. NBA team for which point guard John Wall plays.
Pass.
European country whose region Dalmatia is home to the massive walls of Ston.
Pass.
U.S. newspaper with the largest circulation.
The Wall Street Journal.
Correct. British rock band whose albums include The Wall.
Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd is correct. That brings us to the end of our lightning round and also to the end of our contest. The final score, Central Catholic 395, Penn Argyl 240. Let's have a hand for our teams. Congratulations to Central Catholic. It's always a pleasure to watch the best and the brightest showcase their immense talent, and we wish Penn Argyl the best of luck in their academic endeavors. On behalf of Scholastic Scrimmage and PBS 39, thank you for your continued support and viewership. Though they may be, at times, teams of rivals, one truth remains: you can't beat brains.
Scholastic Scrimmage is brought to you by the members of PBS 39 and by
Scholastic Scrimmage is sponsored by St. Luke's University Health Network, the region's leading provider of medical education. For more than 100 years, St. Luke's has been dedicated to educating physicians, nurses, and healthcare professionals. To learn more, call St. Luke's InfoLink, toll free at 866 St. Luke's, or visit sluhn.org.
Support for PBS 39's educational programming is provided by the Deluxe Corporation Foundation, proud to support quality programming on PBS 39.